Rumours of the summer forecast are doing the rounds, but what have we said about the summer so far? What can we say about a whole season? And with the 1st of June just a few days away, what's the first week of summer looking like? Hello, welcome to the latest Deep Dive. I'm Annie Shuttleworth. I'm a presenter and meteorologist here at the Met Office, and this is your Deep Dive, where we take a closer look into this week's weather, the upcoming season's weather, that's what we're doing this week, and all sorts of other details. If this is your first Deep Dive, welcome along. If you are a regular, welcome back. Thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notifications as well, and share this video with anyone you think who might be interested in it and might not have seen it before. So this week we're going to be talking about the summer, the upcoming summer, what we can say about it and what we can expect. And as I said, there are a few summer forecasts already out there doing the rounds. This is one that has been in the headlines today. In fact, Met Office warns the government of 50 days of rain in just 3 months as Britain braces for one of the wettest summers on record. Now, this statement is pretty out there, and it's actually nothing that we have said. In fact, we would never give any specific details on the forecast for a whole season, any specific details of exactly how many days of rain we can expect. And we've only just released our summer forecast, and these headlines were written before today. So they actually only covered May, June and July, rather than June, July and August, which is actually meteorological summer. So first of all, this is not based on anything to do with summer, and it gives far too much detail for a whole season that we would ever give. Now, we do seasonal forecasts. We definitely do brief things into government, to contingency agencies as well. And we'll go over what we do say and what we can say in a little bit more detail. But what does this 50 days of rain mean? Well, 50 days of rain, or 1 day of rain in the UK, counts as 1 millimetre of rainfall falling anywhere in the UK. So that could fall in Scotland. You could have 50 days of rain in Scotland. Actually, in the south, the Midlands, Wales, anywhere else, you could have absolutely no rain. So you'd be having a completely different experience. So putting a forecast on how many days of rain you will have is completely useless in many ways. You're actually not going to be able to tell much about what you can expect at all. So that is one reason why we would never give a forecast on exactly how many days of rain you can expect, and it's a level of accuracy that you simply can't get out of a weather forecast. So how many days of rain do you kind of see throughout the summer? Well, let's have a look at this chart. Now, this shows you how many days of rain you can expect throughout the year. We've got two different bars on the averages. This is the averages for 1961 to 1990 and 1991 to 2020, excuse me. So we do 30-year averaging periods. And the best thing to compare our current weather to is to the most recent averaging period, which goes up to 2020. So those are the red bars. As I said, summer months are June, July and August, and you can see that from June, July and August we tend to see somewhere between 11 and about 13 days of rain. So that gives us somewhere between 30 and 40 days of rain for a whole season, the whole of the summer. And actually the average for the UK of days of rain is somewhere around 37 days of rain. That's for 1 millimetre of rain to fall anywhere in the UK. And actually, if you were to change that number to 0.1 millimetre, which is something we'd also record, so just a trace of rain, actually the average for the UK would be about 50 days of rain. And so 50 days of rain, if you're just looking at 0.1 millimetres of rain, would not be a particularly wet summer at all. But if you're looking at 1 millimetre of rain, then it probably would be one of the wetter summers. But it's not what we're predicting at this stage. We put no level of that level of detail on our summer forecasts. So what have we said about the summer so far? I said our summer seasonal forecast has been released today, and let's have a look at it. So it doesn't really look like a forecast that you may have seen before. We have gone over these in previous deep dives. We've had a guest, Will Lang, on a few times to discuss these in a bit more detail. Particularly Alex did one with Will last summer to have a look at the summer forecast. And actually the forecast was very similar to this. If you look back at that video, you'll notice the numbers are very similar. And actually for this summer, the forecast is looking pretty close to average. In fact, there's no particular strong signals for the upcoming summer, apart from one which you may have noticed, but we'll talk about that in just a minute. First of all, I'm going to talk about the rain, because that's where we started with a wet summer, with the headlines telling us we're expecting a wet summer. Now this states that we're more likely to see, it goes about 60% that you're likely to see, there's a 60% chance you're likely to see about an average summer, and 20% of it being wetter, 20% drier. That's kind of the standard deviation where you think things would, with probability, how you think things would generally lie. And then we look at drivers, global drivers, and how they're playing out and how they might impact our weather on top of that to give us these forecasts. And the global drivers, there are no real strong drivers for this upcoming summer. So that's one reason why things have come out pretty close to average. But that doesn't mean that we're not expecting a wet summer. It doesn't mean we're not expecting a dry summer. It means that it's most likely to be drier, but actually you can't really rule anything out. And even if it was an average summer, it could have been really wet in the north and really dry in the south, and actually it's averaged out. So it doesn't give you a representation of what it's going to be like in one single place. So that's not what these forecasts are used for. And so the signal for this summer is that there is equal likelihood, it's fairly balanced, whether we will see a wet or a dry summer. You can see there's not much in whether we're just 15% or 20%, whether it would be a wetter or a drier summer. As I said, there is one number that it does stick out a little bit, and that is the temperature on the temperature line, that we have a 45% chance that it will be a hotter than average summer. And that's 2.3 times the normal chance. Now this is compared to this 30-year average. And the UK temperatures are increasing in line with global temperatures due to climate change. And actually that is the key driver for this signal, because our summers are increasingly more likely to be hotter than cooler than average. And that's the trend we're expecting to continue. Now this does tell us a few things. It does mean that heat-related impacts such as heat waves, heat issues, wildfires, those sorts of things are more likely for the season on average. And that information is useful for the government, for contingency planners as well. But as I said, this forecast does not tell us that what we can expect for your holiday for a week in July or your wedding on a particular day in August, unfortunately. Weather forecasting is simply not such that we can give specific forecasts for specific days, months in ahead. But we can give general trends for those that are able to plan using those trends and risks. And so this forecast is actually designed for people who are used to making risk-based decisions based on these types of forecasts. They've got plenty of experience, and that is who they are for. So I said this was quite similar to the forecast we had for last summer, and so and averages do tend to take away the general trend. But so we were going for about a 20% chance of it being wetter than average, 15% that it was going to be drier than average. And so how did last summer pan out? So I've just got this as a reminder. This was the summer rainfall as a whole. Where it's blue, it was wetter than average. Where it's brown, it was drier than average. And where it's white, it was kind of in between, basically. Or it was about average, in fact. So there were some wetter than average spots, northwest England in particular, and across the south coast as well. There were some wet spots. Northern Ireland, particularly western areas of Northern Ireland, had a fairly wet summer as well. I don't know if you remember, we had a really nice June and then quite a disappointing for quite a few people July and August as well. And so that doesn't really tell you the whole story of how the summer panned out. So what I'm trying to say is that these sorts of forecasts, these averages, are not something you can take away for exactly how the feel of the whole summer is going to be. And these sorts of headlines are almost impossible to be factually correct as well. So summer is actually starting on the 1st of June, which is only a few days away. So although we may not be able to tell you exactly what's going to be happening for a day in July, we can tell you what we are expecting for the very first week of June with quite a lot of accuracy as well. So let's have a look at what the weather is going to be like for the next few days and the next couple of weeks, in fact. So first of all, let's have a look at the pressure pattern. I hope that's a good angle, I think. So we've got the jet stream here, the pressure pattern, we've got frontal systems on there as well. I'll just play it through for the next couple of days. So we've got the jet stream coming in, we've got this area of low pressure across the UK. That's bringing this wet weather through today and into Thursday. We've got an unsettled few days to come. It was a pretty unsettled bank holiday Sunday and Monday for many areas, and it's staying unsettled for the next couple of days. But there are signs of change coming by the end of the week, and actually quite a strong signal that the main bulk of the jet stream dives to the south and bulks up to the north as well. So it splits, and that allows this high pressure to build in across the UK. And that high pressure then moves in from the west. We've still got low pressure centred to the east, so we'll still get some unsettled weather moving down eastern areas for the end of this week. But by the weekend, this high pressure is really edging into western areas, becoming much more dominant across the UK. And high pressure means sinking air. That means that you don't get showers forming as easily because you need unstable air for showers. You need air to be able to rise, and when you've got sinking air, that stops those showers bubbling up and developing. It means dry weather, and it also can reduce cloud cover as well because of that sinking dry air as well. So that means more sunshine is on the way and more drier weather is on the way as well. So high pressure is likely to move in, and it's just going to sit to the west of the UK through a lot of this, the Friday, Saturday, the weekend as well. We'll start to see some weather fronts probably starting to move in to the far north, but actually the signals are that that high pressure remains fairly dominant until at least Tuesday. We'll show a bit more. I'll show a bit more on that in a minute. Let's take a closer look at the next couple of days, a little bit more zoomed in on the UK. So I'll put the pressure pattern on as well so you can see the weather fronts from today. Actually, let's have a look at the radar first of all. So that's what's been happening. So this was yesterday. We had some very heavy showers moving through, and then through last night we had a weather front move into the southwest, and as that's moved through, some heavy, really heavy bursts of rain through this morning have fallen, and on the back edge of that weather front we've seen things become more unsettled, and that's why we have a thunderstorm warning out for this afternoon into this evening, and it's likely going to stay unsettled into tomorrow as well. We've got further thunderstorm warnings in force. So this weather front moves through, and then behind it, heavy showers breaking out. It's something called a shallow moist zone that we've had developing. It's quite a complex frontal setup. So it means that we've got embedded instability. So instability means that air can rise and you can get those potentially quite heavy downpours and thunderstorms. Now the area of low pressure moves off to the east through Wednesday, but then I'm going to pause it. Let's go back a tiny bit. Okay, I think tomorrow lunchtime's a good stopping point. So as the low pressure shifts off, we've still got really unstable air, but I mean there's less rain around. It's going to be a slightly drier day, but we've got these showers still coming in on this northwesterly wind. Essentially the wind's kind of switching direction because we do have the low, but things will come in from the north, essentially moving south and east through the day. But where you're closer to this area of low pressure, the winds are lighter, and that means we've got something, a less of what we call a steering flow. Now the steering flow is the level at which the winds are which steer showers. So it's higher up in the atmosphere, and where we have not a particularly strong steering flow, so calmer winds at that level, it means the showers don't move very quickly. So actually across Scotland, where we're closer to that low pressure tomorrow, those showers are expected to move quite slowly, so you could get rainfall totals building up in the same area because the showers aren't moving away very quickly. Whereas a little bit further south, we've got more isobars, the wind speeds a little bit higher, and so we've got low pressure, those showers moving through quickly. There's still the potential for some very heavy, potentially thundery downpours in the east tomorrow, but they'll move much more quickly, so we're not expecting as many impacts. So as a result of that, we have got a warning in force for Scotland for tomorrow. There are warnings in force for today, but today I'm just going over tomorrow for now. And that is where we are expecting, that's the morning, so there we go. This warning area is covering that area that we're expecting those really heavy, slow moving showers and potentially some impacts from the thunderstorms, a lot of rain falling in a short amount of time. We've got our rainfall totals we can look at for a bit more detail and how much rain we can expect. So this is today through, let's get the 24-hour totals on. Throughout, let's start today and just see how the general trend works out. So today we've got those thunderstorm warnings. Parts of southwestern Scotland is where we're expecting some pretty high totals as well. You can see that trend, those brighter colours, that's showing 50 millimetres in 24 hours. And then we'll start to see the rain become more focused in the east through tomorrow. You can see those heavier, those more of those totals building up quite widely across the east. In the west, there's still some showers building up, but there's more white spots where we're not expecting as much in the way of rain. When you're looking at showers, it's actually when you get quite a lot of rain falling in a short space of time when you start to get those impacts. So that's a good idea. It's a good idea to look at those for Wednesday. So you can see we've got really bright spots here. That's kind of 25 millimetres falling in 3 hours. We could see about 30 millimetres falling in about 3 hours and potentially more than that. So that could bring those localised impacts. So that's Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we've got the low pressure moving away, quite a lot of switching around, so let's keep up. Here we go. So Wednesday, the low pressure moves away Wednesday evening, and then Thursday we'll start to see a bit more of a feature moving in from the northwest, and that's going to drag down an area of rain down south and eastwards through the day. So there's further potential for some quite heavy downpours through Thursday, a bit more focused across eastern areas still. As in the west, we're starting to see the high pressure. You can't quite see the high, there it is. It's coming in for Thursday evening or Thursday afternoon. So things are already starting to improve from the west by Thursday, but we'll still see some rain across the far east all the way into Friday, but things are getting dramatically better ahead of the weekend. So high pressure's building in. How warm and sunny is it going to get? So for Friday, temperatures are starting to rise, but it's only really into Saturday and Sunday where we'll start to see temperatures rise a little bit towards the around average, a little above average, moving towards sort of low 20s for the weekend across southern areas in the best of the sunshine. Where you do have a bit more of an onshore breeze through the weekend, it's going to be a bit cooler across eastern areas, potentially in the shelter though. There's all that difference. We have had some really warm days already this year. And you will know that when the sun shines, we've got high UV levels, pollen levels are on the rise as well. So those summery impacts will start to be a bit more widely felt. But it's Saturday and Sunday when we start to see those temperatures starting to rise. Have a look on our graphs. So some fairly disappointing days this week, nothing exceptionally low, but temperatures just slowly rising as I move around into the weekend. There's some uncertainty on cloud cover up across northern areas into the weekend, so it may start to cool off a little bit into Sunday, just with a bit more cloud around. But generally, we're expecting high pressure to last for a fair while, actually, into the weekend and next week as well. But quite how long are we expecting it? So this is the pressure pattern for the next 2 weeks. So can't quite see my arrows are covering that up, but that says Tuesday the 28th, that's today, and Tuesday the 11th of June. So that's the next 2 weeks. This is the pressure pattern, so this shows you if you were expecting lower or higher pressure to dominate. So high pressure is the reds, blues are the low pressure, green is kind of somewhere in between, so those transitional periods. And so low pressure is very much in charge today. We're starting to transition through Wednesday and Thursday. That's why it's coming in as green. And then that high pressure building in from the west is the reason for this strong red colour, the deep red colour. We've got quite high percentages as well. They've increased with time, which is fairly typical. You get increasing confidence as you get closer to the time. And so the numbers increase. So we're up to 100%, 99%, but even into Monday, 94% chance of that higher pressure still dominating the UK weather. And actually, I'd say the signal lasts until about Tuesday. That's when we've got quite high confidence that high pressure will be dominating. And actually, we haven't had a huge amount of high confidence recently in the forecast. You may have noticed the forecasts have not necessarily always stood true. They have chopped and changed with the position of the high and the low. And that is very typical for this time of year in spring, late spring, early summer. There aren't any particularly strong global drivers, and that's certainly the case at the moment. And so it has meant that the reliability of the forecast, or the confidence in the forecast, has felt a little less. But we've got pretty strong confidence, or higher confidence, of this drier and sunnier spell all the way until Tuesday. And then it's kind of middle of next week when things start to change slowly. Sometimes when high pressure builds in, it can take a while to move away, which is good news for some. And equally, when we think it's going to come in, it can take a little while to build in. But once it arrives, it can take a little while to budge away. And actually, that's where we've got quite a lot of the uncertainty starts to build in of when that high is we're going to start to sink away. So percentages go down. We've still got reds in charge. But then by the time we get to next weekend, more in the way of blues, but there's still quite low percentages as well. And this is the multi-model output. So this uses lots of different models and it merges them together to give a mixed probability. And actually lots of different models are showing different things. Some of them want to keep hold of that high pressure and some of them want to let go of it a bit sooner. So what kind of setups can we expect for the next week from sort of Tuesday onwards? So as I said, Tuesday, this is kind of the most likely pressure pattern from Tuesday the 4th of June. It's a 49% probability it came in as, but actually the others in the group were pretty similar to this as well. It's just slightly, as a high was a little bit further this way or this way, but they generally give you the same pattern. So Tuesday onwards, we've still got this high pressure from the west. If you're closer to the high pressure, that's where you've got that sinking air, you're closer to it, so it's likely to be drier. Further east you are, the closer you are to that high pressure, particularly the further north you are, there's still low pressures up there, so a source of moisture which may bring a greater risk of showers, potentially more in the way of cloud and possibly some rain as well. And actually that signal becomes, of that northerly area starting to see more in the way of cloud, becomes a bit stronger as the week goes on. So this is by the time we get to Friday, the 7th of June, this is one of the more likely probabilities. This is only 16%. But it's the highest probability on that day, and a few of them are showing, and they're showing a few different things. I think this is the general trend that we'll start to see frontal systems starting to move in just to northern areas. It will introduce, as I said, some more moisture, potentially a few showers. We could see some stuff across eastern areas, but high pressure is always closer to the south in all the regimes that are coming through. So I think this drier weather is likely to last longer across the south, and whereas in the north it could turn a bit cloudier and wetter sooner after around Tuesday onwards. So how does the trend carry on all the way until next weekend? So just a reminder, we've got blues coming in by next weekend. We're in that transitional period. And as I said, some models want to just hold on to this high pressure. So they're coming in with things like this. High pressure is still dominating, but then others are coming in, or runs are coming in with something that looks a bit more or less with low pressure moving in. And there's an increasing signal that we could start to see a bit more in the way of mobility. That's weather fronts moving in from the Atlantic, a bit more of a movable system rather than that blocked high that's starting to come in for the next week. So that's from the middle of June onwards, we could start to see a bit more mobility in our weather pattern. So the high is expected to last at least about 5 or 6 days across the UK. It's where we've got those deep reds. I think across the south it will last for a lot of next week as well, but it's towards the end of the week and the weekend when we could start to see that high eroding away and the low pressures returning to the wetter weather. But for the time being, we've got good news on the way for those that are wanting some summery weather. Unfortunately, for those that have been trying to enjoy it for half term, it's coming a little late, but you've still got a few days, the next weekend as well, to enjoy it. So I think plan your outdoor activities if you can for the latter part of this week, as things will improve, but there's still some unsettled weather to come for the next few days. We do have thunderstorm warnings in force as well. And that's it from me. Thank you very much for joining me. That's our summer forecast, or a look at the summer ahead and the first week of summer as well. Have a great rest of your day. I'll be around for the 30 minutes, around 4:30 till 5 o'clock, to answer any of your questions and comments on YouTube if you are watching soon after this is released. But otherwise, I'll see you next time, and thank you very much for joining me. Bye-bye.